Hello, I am back with another intro disclaimer, of which this will probably not be the last one. Sorry, my voice sounds like I've been hit in the throat. I haven't. I've just been asleep for a very long time after a very long road trip, which you will now hear about. I had some camera difficulties with this one. Not going to be the only video with camera difficulties coming up soon. I blame Mercury retrograde. You can blame whatever you want. And without further ado, here we go again. So, this is a bit new and different for me. It's a weird setup right now. Clearly, I am actually in a hotel room in Salt Lake City, Utah. Lots been going on. Just lots. Lots has been going on. So, I figure I'm going to give you a life update as well as an off-season update. Yeah, I haven't even said hello since after the Stanley Cup Finals. Life update. Oh! Essentially, in June of this year, I left my job as a producer. It was very amicable. I just wanted to kind of go off on my own, do some other things, be a little bit more independent, also be able to travel, which inspired a very last-minute trip to Indiana for the 4th of July. I'm originally from Kentucky. A lot of my family still lives in Indiana. It's not like I was just like, oh, you know what I really want to do right now? I really want to go to southern Indiana where nobody goes on purpose. So I decided that that was going to be a thing, but of course, instead of just being a normal human being about it and taking a flight, I made the very, very odd decision of taking a cross-country road trip. I have actually done this before. I moved from Chicago to LA almost at this exact time last year. A few months later in September I moved. And so I knew I could do it, but I'd never done it to Indiana, so I decided I was going to do it in 2 days, which is a really terrible decision. It's a 30-hour drive. Let me just say that, like, even if you're a really, really seasoned traveler, you're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna do stupid things. It was a really, really tough trip. I have traveled alone all over the world, and I have never felt unsafe staying anywhere except for the hotel that I had booked in Texas, where I had planned to stay my first night after driving 16 hours from Los Angeles to Amarillo, Texas. I don't feel bad saying the name of the hotel because I think people, A, need to know not to stay there, and B, I'm not the type of person to complain about, like, any customer service thing. I'm a pretty easy guest, I'd say. Like, I've literally not sent back frozen food before. Like, I will eat it before sending it back. I just don't like making complaints or anything like that, but this was really unacceptable. I felt very unsafe, and I didn't want to stay there. It's called the Paramount Hotel in Amarillo, Texas, so I beg of you, please do not stay there, especially if you are a single woman traveling alone. I ended up having to drive almost 3 more hours to Sayre, Oklahoma. It's the only free hotel room for the night. Really want to give a big shout out to the receptionist at the American Inn in Sayre, Oklahoma, because she just took absolutely incredible care of. I had not slept the night before. I had gone out to a friend's birthday party and then decided, oh hey, I'll take a 2-hour nap, get on the road, because I knew I had a long time to drive. So I ended up driving 19 hours in one day, slept for about 4 hours, and then went on to finish the drive to Indiana. About halfway through the drive, I found out some terrible news about a family tragedy. So it was kind of weirdly divine timing, if you guys believe in that, of I really needed to be with my siblings at that moment. It was a very interesting trip to Indiana because it's a little bittersweet. I got to see people who I really care about, and some people who I haven't seen in forever, but it wasn't for the best of reasons, obviously. From there, I went to Chicago with my father, and then up to Wisconsin to visit my mother with my father, and then traveled from Chicago to Des Moines, Iowa, where I filmed some videos with a friend called Ashley, who you will meet very soon. I am so excited for you guys to meet her. She's so crazy. I love her. And I traveled to Des Moines because I actually went to college for a year there at Drake University. I was a Division I rower. So before I transferred and then went to the rest of university in England, which is why I call it university instead of college. So yeah, so from Des Moines, went to Wall, South Dakota. From there on, I traveled yesterday 12 and a half hours from Wall, South Dakota to Salt Lake City, where I am now. Tomorrow I will drive home to Los Angeles. What else is there? Oh yeah, I actually tried to film this video once before in South Dakota before I got to the Badlands, and figured out afterwards that I was driving through a literal tornado. I have footage, I'll insert it here.
This is nuts. You can barely see the road. Nuts.
You really couldn't hear anything I was saying, so now I'm just gonna repeat it. So if it doesn't sound as fresh, super sorry. I believe that is all up to my life updates, so off-season updates. I've pretty much limited it to both Caps and Leafs off-season updates. I don't follow the other teams well enough, and I don't want to give you bad information. I also really want to talk about the 2018 draft, which was super interesting to me too. Off-season with the Stanley Cup has been super fun to watch. I love that John Carlson had it on 4th of July, which it took me so long to realize it's because his jersey number is 74, and 4th of July is 74. I felt like an absolute idiot for not knowing that. It traveled to Russia with Ovi, where he ate caviar out of it, and his wife looked like a goddess next to it. Like, seriously, she outshined the damn Stanley Cup. Also went to Prague with Jacob Vrana. I hate to say it was a little underwhelming for me. I really was hoping for, just Caps Parade Part 2. Andrei Burakovsky did show up, though. That was kind of fun. It also traveled to the Capital Gazette, which was the recent site of a shooting. The equipment manager, Craig Weidig, was the one who brought it to the Capital Gazette. And I just thought it meant so much in such a wake of a terrible tragedy. To kind of move on to a little bit lighter things, it seems like the only one who's kind of continuing the post-Stanley Cup antics is TJ Oshie, who I am just completely obsessed with in this offseason. He played in a golf tournament and did both his weird drinking thing and then also sank like a 20-foot putt with a beer cap on. I mean, come on, dude, you're insane. I love it. I love every second of it. So beyond just the Stanley Cup kind of aftermath, of course, there's the offseason, which basically consists of like two interesting things. Nobody's playing, so you've got contracts and trades and the 2018 draft. Contracts and trades, the big one was John Tavares. He was pretty much being courted by every team who could afford him, and he actually went with his boyhood team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. He signed a 7-year, $91 million contract, which is insane. I personally love kind of when players take a salary cut for sentimental reasons, and he definitely did. It was said that the San Jose Sharks offered him as much as $12.5 million to $13 million a year, which is banana pancakes, but that's fine. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how they play next year. Speaking of people who stayed for sentimental reasons, let's talk about the Caps. We have got Devontae Smith-Pelly, who took apparently a major hit to sign another 1-year contract with the Caps for $1 million. That's not a whole bunch, and especially with how he played in the playoffs, if he can keep that momentum up, he's going to be indispensable. His play during the playoffs didn't really match his regular season play. He scored, actually, to put it even weirder, it matched exactly. DSP scored 7 goals in the regular season. He scored 7 goals in the playoff season, so he matched his record of an entire year within just a couple of months. He wanted to stay with the team because DC loves him, his teammates love him, and he really loves the atmosphere, thinks they can go back-to-back, which I'm here for. Also, they re-signed Kempney, which I think is a phenomenal decision. He played really well with John Carlson, who's another person who just signed a bananas pancakes contract with the Capitals. He signed for 8 years and $64 million. I support it. He played well with Kempney. I hope they have the same chemistry next year, because I'd love to have another Caps Stanley Cup. Let's do it. That's all I'm going to say about the trades and the contracts. There's a lot going on. Moving on to the draft. This was a weird year. I'm just going to put out a blanket statement here saying I'm going to mispronounce pretty much every name. I'm terrible with names to begin with. I've written them down correctly, but, yeah, I'm Midwestern, so my foreign name pronunciation is not great. I'm honestly going to give this my 110% all, but I'm so sorry if it's like your favorite player. I'm sorry. They're not all phonetic. So it's a weird year because we knew Rasmus Dahlin was going to go first. That was almost a given. But, and I've used this statistic before in talking to people who say that it really matters where people are drafted. In my mind, it so doesn't. It matters who drafts them, but not necessarily which order. If you look at the entirety of the NHL, number one draft picks that have gotten in the NHL Hall of Fame, there have been 7. That's 6.9% of number one draft picks are in the NHL Hall of Fame. That is not a lot, okay? And so just because they're really, really high picked does not mean they're going to deliver. You know, you've got people like Braden Holtby who were picked super far down the list, and look where he is right now. But sometimes I think it's almost best to be picked second. The expectations are a little bit lower, and I think one of the biggest issues with this year's draft class in particular, I mean it happens every year, but is there some cocky little shits. I'm gonna put this in perspective. These kids are 17 and 18, and they are asked to make the biggest career decision of their lives. I don't even know what I want to do with myself half the time. So at 17 and 18, I couldn't imagine negotiating deals worth millions of dollars with teams that you might not even stay with down the road. I think it's really crazy. If you were handing me $1 million at 18, I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, I was an asshole at 18. My room would probably be covered in Doctor Who posters, and I'd buy a lot of Jamba Juice. I don't know. But that being said, it's so tough for me to say that these personalities are going to hang on there. Filip Zadina really rubbed me the wrong way. In my mind, there should be a level of, kind of like, be grateful that you get to play hockey for a fucking living. Okay, you get to do your favorite thing in the world, and they are just pushing themselves at you to make sure that you're going to play the best you can play. I don't think teams are malicious ever. I've never come across a draft where I was like, that was strategic to hurt someone else. It's usually like, we need that person really fucking badly, and we're willing to pay to get him. So the teams know what they're doing. That's why they've got tens of men's at tables sitting there making phone calls talking about salaries and getting picks next year, and it's a huge negotiation. If you've not watched the movie Draft Day, I do actually think it does a pretty good job of explaining what goes on. Not in hockey, obviously, but in football, and it's pretty similar. Like, draft days are similar. The draft is a very complicated thing. I might do a huge video on it, but I really don't want to. So Filip Zadina bothered me because he kind of said, well, they didn't pick me in the top 3. I'm just going to put pucks in the back of their net. And it's a threat, for lack of a better term. It was said that he was going to go top 3. But again, in my mind, it doesn't matter. You need to go with the team that fits you best. And then you've got Oliver Wahlstrom picked 11th, and he said that a mistake was made that he wasn't picked sooner. I think I'm going to give a little leeway because these guys are 18, and because literally they're at the age where it's like acceptable for me to both date them and their dads. I'm at a weird place in my life, you guys. But I think they need to get some heads on their shoulders, and if you can't live up to your expectations, that can almost be more damaging, in my mind, than coming in there saying nothing and blowing everyone away. Set expectations low, results high. You can tell I was an athlete growing up. Someone who I really am kind of excited about is, and I know this name is not going to go well, Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Picked number 3 by the Montreal Canadiens. I think they really made a good choice. I mean, he's being compared to Anze Kopitar, and there's something about him to me and the way that he plays that is very intriguing. Now, the Montreal Canadiens are confusing to begin with. They picked 7 centers in this year's draft. That's a lot of centers. We get it. You need centers. The best way to think about it is so few of these people are going to come right out of the draft and right onto the ice. I mean, the only one that I think of, off the top of my head, and I know there are many more, that really had kind of the ideal situation was Tyler Seguin, who got drafted 2nd. Again, not the first pick. He went right out on the ice with the Bruins and then won the Stanley Cup his first year. But if you watch interviews with him now, even now he'll say, I didn't realize how hard it was to win a cup on my own. So I think the guys who are getting the reps of saying, like, you made a mistake, this was a bad idea that you waited this long for me to be picked, they might turn out to be Tyler Sagans, where they have a couple years where they're willful themselves. But then they figure their stuff out. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen. I cannot wait for hockey season to begin again, obviously. But yeah, I'm going to try to get out a couple of videos here in the next week or so. And I think that's about it. I will be in Los Angeles tomorrow. And with that, I'm going to go try to get a good night's sleep. Alright, I love you guys. Bye!